Right, thanks, Amanda. President Obama is putting trade on the front burner during an economic update yesterday. He said the U.S. is on track to meet his goal of doubling exports in the next 5 years. The president says this is a key element of our economic recovery and creation of new jobs in America. Now, halfway through 2010, Joe Krier, president of Krier Wealth Management, says there's a mixed bag of good and bad news here. Joe, welcome back to the morning show.
Hey, Bruce.
Exports the way to go?
Well, it's a major positive because, for one thing, it of course creates jobs here in manufacturing, something we sorely need. But almost as important is it brings money in from out of the country. You know, what we keep trying to do is stimulate the economy by pumping money into it that hopefully gets spent 3 and 4 times over. When you bring in fresh money from overseas, China, for example, that's good stuff.
And in listening to the president yesterday, I think we heard what's going to be a recurring campaign theme, the role of government and defending that role in being a driving force in bringing about economic recovery. But there's some headwinds that they've got to push through before we get where we need to be. So first of all, let's take a look at what's happened in 2010 from January to today.
Okay, yeah, as Congress is on their mid-year break, you know, they've been dealing with all this stuff year to date, but what we've seen is the recovery in the economy that started last year has clearly slowed down, and we're hearing a lot of talk about a double dip recession. It doesn't really matter. People don't feel that good anyways. But we've also seen the stock market go into a decline starting in about mid-March, and that doesn't make people feel very good either. And now we've got, of course, Europe is in turmoil. They took a couple weeks break to watch soccer, but they'll be back at the bad news probably by next week.
Yeah, and you know, there's a report that's due out today that's going to showcase the fact that unemployment's not improving. It's at 9.5%. The numbers are going to grow, and the headwinds, I think, for the Obama administration are unemployment, tepid job growth in the private sector, and Congress has little appetite for economic stimulus.
Yeah, and it's a mess, and you know, when Congress looks at what they've done year to date, they've reworked a lot of things, but they really do need to start focusing on jobs creation. And you know, I think part of President Obama's speech the other day was just saying, hey, you know, there is some good out there, and they do need to focus on the positive here. But going forward, we still have this slowdown. U.S. banking needs to recover. They need to start lending money to new homeowners and things. And then we're a little worried about tax increases coming in January.
Well, look, there may be some sooner. One of the big headlines in the paper, we've been talking about it this morning on the morning show. Locally, property taxes could go up 9% to help offset some of the budget limitations that we have right here in Jacksonville. Yeah, it's a fact of life.
Yeah, it's another headwind that's out there because 48 of the 50 states are underwater right now, and they need some revenue from somewhere. The problem here is the more you increase taxes, the more you slow down economic recovery. If you increase taxes on small businesses, it makes it harder for us to go out and hire people, and it's just a virtuous downward spiral, I guess.
Seems like it's all negative. Is there any what you call green shoots, you know, little buds that are coming out to show the fact that, all right, we're making some progress?
Yeah, and I will remind people that if you look at the last 100 years in the U.S., there's plenty of times you could say, hey, we're in an unsolvable situation right now, and we've always gotten through it. So corporate earnings are looking better. They are so lean and mean right now that a slight uptick in sales helps their earnings significantly. And confidence in the U.S. seems to be rising. At least people don't feel like we're slipping into the abyss right now. And consumers are cleaning house.
Which means what?
It means they're paying off their debt here, so that's a good thing. It doesn't help the economy immediately, but if people learn to pay with cash instead of credit cards, that's a great thing for the U.S. going forward.
And we have time on our side.
We do, and you know, every crisis just tends to work itself out over time. It takes time for the wheels of the economy to get going, and you know, we've been in this recession now, depending on who you ask, for 1.5 years to almost 2 years. That puts us on the long end of all the recessions in the last 100 years.
You mentioned the fact that Americans are cleaning house and they're getting rid of their debt. Have we learned our lesson, or 5 or 10 years from now, are we right back where we started from?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, we think that people haven't suddenly become responsible. We just know that their credit cards have cut them off and they have no home equity to borrow against. So hopefully the pain of what's happened the last couple of years seeps in a little bit, and when the economy recovers, people are very responsible going forward. Then we carry this clean slate indefinitely.
We have short memories, though. That's the reality.
I agree.
Joe Krier, always a pleasure. Krier Wealth Management, appreciate you being here.